Today's story was written by Reddit user JohnGaldt. Bob walked along behind the angry thin man, ducking below the door frame and having to go one shoulder at a time through the narrow entryway. Humans were big, but Bob made most other humans look small. He didn't like the air in this place. It was too still. It smelt like sweat and bad breath. "I don't know how someone like you could sneak away, but you will stay here until you are claimed," said the alien in English, which was strange. "I need to finish unloading cargo," said Bob, glancing over his shoulder at the guards that had found him. "You were unattended." "Simon will be looking for me," said Bob. "Well, Simon can file a missing slave report like everyone else." There were rows of barred doors, each with a dozen sad people crammed inside. They were all different aliens with different faces, but Bob knew sad when he saw it. "Not a slave. I'm a good crewmate," said Bob. "A crewmate? Of course you are. Now go in the little cage with the rest of your dustling race." "Not a dustling," said Bob. It was the first thing he had said that made the thin-cheeked alien stop to give him a quick up-and-down look. A bony sharp hand flicked into his robes and pulled out a little pen. He stabbed it into Bob's forearm. Bob jumped back, bumping into and pushing back the two security guards, but his focus was on his sore skin and peeking at the little red mark it had left. "Dustling," said the pen. "You are bigger than usual, but you'll have to try something smarter than that next time you escape. Now, in the cage." Bob glanced inside to see other humans. They too were thin, brown hair, blue eyes, looking at him curiously from within. Bob shook his head and took a step back. "No, I have to go home. Simon will be looking for me." "Dustlings don't have a home," said the alien with a laugh. Bob looked inside the small cramped space. Too small. He would suffocate and would too small. His heart began to thunder until he calmed himself and remembered what Simon had told him. If you ever feel uncomfortable, you don't need to give a reason. Reasons just give people something to argue with. You only have to say, "No," said Bob. The alien waited, his eyes turning cruel as he glared. He glanced behind Bob. They pushed him. Bob brought up his arms and saw the alien draw his rifle to hit him with the butt end in the ribs again. He had been hit before. He didn't want to make a mess of things that Simon would have to fix. This was probably a mistake that Bob had made, but they hit him again and again, harder each time. They looked at him confused between the strikes. Bob looked into the tiny cage at the humans. They were sad and scared. These people were mean. It didn't matter if this mix-up was Bob's fault. Simon told him he didn't deserve to get hurt. He pushed the thin alien a little too hard and turned around, grabbing the rifles from the two guards. They wrestled, trying to bring the barrels around to point at Bob, but only slowly caved down toward the ground as he forced the guns away from himself. The moment they let go, Bob did too, and he gave them both a good push to let them know what's what. There was a loud cracking noise and Bob's arm started shaking on its own, cramping up against his chest. He turned to find the thin alien with a nasty face holding a noisy metal stick pressed into Bob's shoulder. He looked at Bob with surprise and pushed harder on the rod. Bob's other arm was awake though, so he grabbed him and pushed him against the bars of one of the cages. The rod clanged loudly on the floor, making Bob wince at the sound. "Don't! They'll put you in the hole!" cried one of the humans behind him. Bob's arm started to wake back up and join the first, forcing the thin body between the narrow bars with cracks and pops until the alien was stuffed inside the cage and tumbling to the floor in a heap. There was a loud bang far away in the station. It sounded again and again, getting louder each time. Bob picked up the rifles, easing out the batteries as they sparked and fizzled, and their owners ran down the hall away from him. Bob turned to the humans in the cage. "We should go." The human with long brown hair and blue eyes shook her head. "They just hurt you if you try to escape." They all flinched in time with the bangs, but Bob didn't flinch. He felt himself calm down at the sounds. "We need to find Simon. He won't let them hurt you. He's nice." She looked confused, her whole body cringing at the latest bang. "What is that?" she said. "That's Simon," said Bob. Simon appeared in the small doorway at the end of the room, relief spreading across his face and exhaling a long, shaky breath. "Bob, oh thank God you're okay. I think we should probably be going. The locals of far as fuck away don't seem to like us very much." "Can we bring them?" asked Bob. "We can't take all the puppies. The ship is only so much, said Simon, standing beside Bob and looking into the cage. Bob smiled and crouched his head down to the cage door again. "Come on, we'll take you back home." "Dustlings don't have a home," she said. Bob looked around the cage and felt a shudder, like his body was trying to fold in on itself just by looking at it. He took a deep breath. Bob had to be brave. He climbed inside against the voice in his head that screamed to get out. He took out his phone and scrolled through pictures of himself, pausing on one and zooming. "You're not made of dust. You're made of earth." He offered the phone to her, the other human sliding closer into the light blue glow of the screen. Fingers tucked dirty hair behind their ears, their eyes reflecting the image and shimmering. "It's blue, it's green, and the wind is nice," said Bob. "And they are going to be very mad," said Simon, while reloading his shotgun.